We suffer under a collective illusion when we look at our roads. We see thousands of stationary vehicles and assume the problem is a simple lack of tarmac, and that the only cure is pouring more concrete to build wider highways. But this graph illustrates induced demand. When a city increases road capacity, traffic volume rapidly climbs and fills the new space. In urban planning, building wider roads to cure traffic is the mathematical equivalent of loosening your belt to cure obesity. Urban gridlock is a system architecture problem. To fix this, we have to evaluate the city the way we would diagnose bugs in a broken digital product. We need to perform a UX audit on Indian mobility. The system will continue to fail its users until we stop optimizing our infrastructure for moving metal vehicles and start designing it for moving people. The first flaw in the architecture is a total lack of user experience planning. We spend billions on world-class metro rail networks, yet ignore the reality of a commuter actually trying to reach the station doors, navigating broken footpaths, dodging open sewers, and haggling with auto rickshaws just to cover the first kilometer. The friction is too high. At that point, the public transit system has failed before the user even reaches the platform. We solve this by designing frictionless micro-mobility hubs. Every station must be a physical node that integrates metro rail with electric feeder buses and dockless e-bikes. This integrated API allows for a seamless transition. A single digital ticket moves with the user. They book an e-rickshaw, ride the metro, and unlock an e-scooter at their destination without a single break in the user experience. This requires a dual commitment. The government must mandate shaded, continuous pedestrian corridors leading to these hubs, while citizens must be willing to leave the private car at home when safe, dignified shared mobility is provided. A high-capacity transit network loses its utility if a high-friction onboarding experience forces citizens to use private cars as a survival mechanism. The second systemic flaw is our dumb infrastructure. Most Indian cities rely on static, pre-programmed signal timers that have no awareness of actual road conditions. This creates a scenario where an empty lane gets a 60-second green light while a bumper-to-bumper intersection waits endlessly. The resulting bottlenecks usually require a traffic cop to manually override the system, which only creates massive, uncoordinated delays further down the road. We can replace those timers with predictive mobility grids. Computer vision sensors at major intersections identify vehicle types and track pedestrian density in real time, creating a live map of the city's pulse. An AI algorithm then adjusts signal timings across the entire grid to orchestrate synchronized green waves, flushing out congestion. For this orchestration to work, the government must hand over signal control to adaptive algorithms. But for the AI to process the data accurately, it requires every vehicle on the road to act as a predictable data point. This makes strict lane discipline a technical requirement. Lane straddling and red light jumping create noise in the data, rendering the technology useless and breaking the flow for everyone else. The third flaw is the destruction of spatial equity. Cities give away their most valuable real estate for free, allowing empty private cars to be stored on public streets. Free street parking effectively chokes our arterial roads. As these parked cars expand on the diagram, you can see them eating 30 to 40% of the available driving lanes. This behavior directly creates traffic. Vehicles cruising for parking generate up to 20% of all moving urban traffic in dense city centers. We can manage this demand through algorithmic spatial pricing. Smart meters and sensor grids allow parking prices to adjust based on demand. If a street is congested, the price surges. If it's empty, it drops. The revenue generated is then legally ring-fenced to fund the public bus networks. The government must have the political courage to price street parking at its true market value and stop mandating parking minimums for new buildings. In return, citizens must accept that occupying public land with a 2-ton metal box is a privilege that carries a cost. Treating public streets as free garages is a direct subsidy for private car ownership at the expense of collective mobility. When we complete the UX audit, the city transforms. Spatial pricing, mobility hubs, and AI grids synchronize to create a street that breathes. Designing exclusively for cars results in traffic. Designing for people results in mobility. Every piece of the physical and digital architecture required to decode the matrix of Indian traffic is ready for deployment right now. Advanced system architecture is only half the battle. The government must build the code, and we, the citizens, must honor the grid.